I know this may sound like a simple question, but let me ask you, have you ever considered why you create what you create? Have you ever created, designed, and developed a certain product or a project over time, or a multitude of projects or products over time? Sat back and wondered, why am I even doing this? If you're unsure where your creative practice is going, then this episode is for you. Today, we're going to talk about how a lack of vision hurts our creative practice. Why does this episode matter? While success is defined personally, I would advise all creatives to know that their mission, vision, and goals leads them as a form of guidance for your creative practice. It is the most important element needed to guide you on your creative journey. As with many of us, the issue is often not about talent. It's not about skill. It's not about do we have the capacity and ability to do and create certain creative project. It's usually a lack of vision in terms of once it's completed, where do we take it and why do we do it in the first place? Because without vision, and this is from an etymological perspective, it means something that is seen in the imagination. It's sight. It's the act of seeing. Vision denotes that we know our destination. We develop a roadmap for reaching our destination. We're very clear on what it takes to reach it. And then we design an action plan we put in place to make sure that we reach the destination we're aiming to go to. Because without vision, this is what you look forward to. We don't know what success looks like, and we don't know where we'll end up going. We burn out faster because we're grinding with no aim. And knowing from experience, those who you work with will ultimately be led to frustration if this continues. So in this episode, we'll identify what's blocking your vision. We'll explain why this happens. We'll look at some data to back up these facts. And then we'll see where the issues appear within our creative practice. And then we'll look at some things that we can immediately put in place to correct this. So here's the first thing. Without vision, we don't know if what we're doing now is working. A lack of vision makes it impossible to set forth meaningful goals and to measure progress. As creatives at times, we operate on feeling rather than data. We may think a project is going well, but we don't know the metrics or data to confirm what going well actually means. So, for example, I release an album into the world. Here are some metrics or some data that we would look at that we would first of all define to see if it's actually working or is this a form of success for us. How many leads have we generated towards selling our creative works? How many actual sales did our creative works generate? Who are we aiming to sell to, and did it reach those that we intended to sell to? How much are we aiming to generate in revenue? This is just an example. Because one thing is for certain, as a creative, because we feel and because we create from the heart and we create with a level of inspiration, if you will, we're in the moment, we're in the practice of getting our creative works into the world. And that's great. That's fine. We definitely have to create from within and what inspires us. But then we have to make sure that once we release it to the world, we have to have some metrics in place. We have to have a way to measure whether or not that creative work is doing what we intended for it to do. Now, if your goal is just to simply get it out into the world, that could be a metric. The goal could be just to release it and get it out to the world and make it available for people to consume and take on. But if you want to go beyond that, if you're thinking about allowing your creative works to help you to fit into a business, to scale that business, we have to know how our products and services are being impactful and how people are receiving them, and using some metrics, some data to confirm whether or not is this actually working. Another thing is creatives tend to, and I know this from experience, we fear to commit to specific goals. We may think defining success will limit or stifle our creativity. And then because we're creative and because we get drawn to do certain things based on inspiration, We may constantly chase new creative ideas instead of finishing up the ones we've already started and assess the ones we're already working on. Without measuring what works towards our defined goals, we can't scale our creative practice. It's been reported recently that businesses, creative practices included, ones that track and measure performance metrics grow 30% faster than those who don't. Where does this tend to show up in our creative practice when we're operating and building our products and services? This happens when we release work blindly without knowing the intention behind the release. Another example is if we develop and we tend to put our creative works on social media. We do it without a strategy or defining how the social media strategy fits within our creative business, not the other way around. In terms of priorities, we have to think in these terms. What are we seeking when we put our works on social media? For an example, are we attempting to acquire customers? Do we want to become a thought leader in that creative space? Are we attempting to build awareness towards our creative practice? Is our intention to grow our following and our engagement? Do we want to drive traffic to our website? Remember, when we invest time and resources into our marketing strategies to further our creative practice, and we do this without evaluating the return on investment, this is where this tends to show up the most. And then also, collaborating without clarity. This leads to a potential waste of time and further confusion as to how to proceed next within our creative practice. So, if you want to think about knowing if the work that you're doing now is working, how do we fix this immediately, and how do we put some metrics and some and what data to look at in place in order to make sure it's working? Number one, you want to define progress and success for you. It's not the same for everyone. You have to personally set the tone and set the goal ahead of schedule so you can have an idea of what success looks like for you. So instead of simply releasing your creative work, you want to determine what success specifically looks like. Here's some examples. For an artist, for example, I want to increase my Spotify listeners by 20% in 3 months. If you're a filmmaker, I want my short film to get in at least 3 festivals this year. If you're a fashion designer, I want to sell 50 hoodies in my clothing launch. So the important thing about the data, the metrics, is it's a time frame in which you want to complete this, and there's a specific number that you want to reach. So we have the item, and then we have the number of items, and then we have the time frame. This is a set of parameters in place that can help you measure whether or not what you're doing is working, and is what you're doing yielding the results that you're aiming to achieve. So you want to use tracking tools that are native to the locations that you use to engage your creative works. So if you have a website, here's an example. How many number of visitors do you get per month? Which pages do they visit? What actions do they take on the actual website? If you use YouTube or Instagram, for example, if you're dealing with audience engagement, how many views did you receive on your video or reel? What was the percentage of the video that people watch? How many completed views does each video have? What actions did they take on the video posted? And here's another example for if you use an email responder like MailChimp. How many new subscribers are you reaching each month? How many people are unsubscribing each month? What is your email open rate? How many people take the desired action on the email sent? So when you can take these examples and you can evaluate the data from these examples, you tend to understand how your business is operating, how it's moving, how people are interacting with your creative works. This data could be compiled, and you can create a narrative as to what is the next step. You can implement this into your strategy. You can implement this into how you decide to move forward in presenting and getting your creative works out into the world. It just gives you information and data for you to be able to develop accurate strategy. That way, you don't release your creative work and it's not yielding the results that you intended. Well, first and foremost, you didn't even define what the intended goal was from the beginning. So you have no idea exactly how this creative work is impacting others. It almost feels like you're operating with blinders on, and that can lead to a level of frustration or put you in a position where you're not setting yourself up for the success that you desire. So one way to mitigate this is you want to schedule consistent timeframes to review the data. You want to check your progress, make adjustments, and move forward strategically with the new data incorporated into your decision making concerning bringing your vision to pass within your creative practice. So that's number one. Number two, a lack of vision leads to a creative burnout. So a lack of vision makes creative work unsustainable because of a few reasons. Number one, we may overcommit in one area and undercommit in other areas since there's no roadmap for what matters. We make work nonstop, but don't feel like we're getting anywhere. We may not ever schedule rest because we don't know what milestones to pause, and celebrate, and show gratitude for the success that we've already obtained. A key sign that we may lack vision in this particular area is that we may have the tendency to consistently juggle multiple unfinished projects at once. And some projects may not even be tied to us helping us reach our ultimate business goals. Without vision, we're unclear as to what we need to prioritize, which makes everything feel urgent. And the first thing that tends to follow is exhaustion, and frustration. So, based on the research from the American Psychological Association, over 60% of creative professionals report burnout due to lack of structure in their work. Where does this tend to show up the most? We may juggle too many projects without clear and definitive deadlines. We may work on endless edits of our creative works without a plan to end it in sight. And we may sketch multiple ideas, but never finalize the next steps. So if you want to deal with this immediately, this is how I would liken to it. You want to take a step back and think about everything that you're working on and what needs to get done. You want to get these, what Jordan Rayner calls open loops out of your head. You want to write down and prioritize everything you need to complete in one specific tracking location. And then you want to ask yourself a few questions. Number one, what items are helping and taking my creative practice to where it needs to go? Then you want to ask, what items are holding me back in taking my creative practice where it needs to go? Whatever action you've written down that's holding you up, that's from completing your creative work, you want to delete it if it's not taking you to your desired future. This will be considered an action that's not important and not urgent. And then you want to ask yourself, after you delete the ones that are not important and not urgent, what can I do right now that can take me less than 5 minutes? And whatever that action is that you determine, you want to take a moment and you want to complete those items ASAP. And I know I've mentioned this over a couple of episodes, but this book is life-changing. I would highly suggest as a creative entrepreneur to read Redeeming Your Time by Jordan Rayner, because the book outlines in a biblical way how to develop a structure around your creative practice and operate from the principles of the Bible as to how to develop a structured and efficient and effective structure around your creative works. And if you want more of that breakdown, you can watch my a video that I released a little while ago called 3 Reasons Why We Don't Finish What We Started. So that's number 2. So for number 3, a lack of vision can wear down people you partner with creatively. When we lack vision over time, those we work with or collaborate with us, a couple of things may tend to start happening. They may feel frustrated because there's no direction. They may feel like they're wasting their time when the creative projects don't move forward. And collaborators tend to lose motivation because they don't see a clear end goal within the collaboration. Eventually, collaborators will either seek out other creatives who know what they want. And the data that backs this up is from the Gallup research. Creative partners who don't understand their role becomes 50% less engaged in collaboration. Where does this tend to show up the most? When collaborators are working without a clear creative direction, and when collaborators keep getting different instructions in order to finish their tasks within the collaboration. And this can look different depending on what industry we're referring to. Because I have experience in the music industry, that's what I tend to speak about the most creatively. So, for example, if I'm working on an album and as I'm working in a particular studio, I have the engineer, I have the collaborators, the musicians, I have songwriters, producers, individuals that I collaborate with on my particular project to get it from A to Z. As I'm working on these songs and I'm working on this project, everyone that's involved needs to know what their role is and exactly why they're being brought in and what's expected of them. If me as an artist and as a leader of this project, if I don't have it laid out, then I'm running the risk of people becoming less motivated or less energized and showing up in the collaboration because they don't know where they're going to go. They don't know where they fit. They don't know how they can serve. And we have to make sure that in our creative practice that we give people the specific parameters in which they work within, and we have to allow them to know exactly how they need to show up in order to feel inspired, motivated to contribute to us in our creative practice. So for our collaborators, we must define the following. We must let them know what is the purpose, what is the vision for the collaboration. We want to let them know what is the outcome that we're seeking to have together. What is the goal? Then what is the timeline? When will we be done? When are we aiming to be done? And then how will we measure success? How do we know when we're finished? Once we finish, what is it going to look like? Is success releasing into the world? Is success a certain amount of streams, downloads, a certain amount of sales? Whatever that is, it's totally up to you. You get to define that. But within that definition, we just need to know exactly where we're going. So as a creative entrepreneur, even before the collaboration begins, you want to think about a 5-step framework when completing these creative projects. In the business world, they entitle this to who, what, when, there, why, which is number one, who? The people involved. Who are the people involved in this creative practice? The what? What are the tasks, goals, and the challenges? How are they scheduled to contribute to that creative practice and that creative work? Then when? The timing. What is the deadline, the schedule? When will we be done with this? How will we know when we're finished? What is the end time? The where? The locations. Where will this be completed? How often do we need to show up to work and collaborate in this particular manner? And then why? The purpose. What is it for? What is the vision? What is the goal? What is the mission of what we're aiming to complete? So in order to make sure you can keep this on track, especially with collaborators, you want to have consistent check-ins. That can be monthly, weekly, that can be quarterly, whatever's needed for the creative work. You want to keep collaborators aligned and motivated and clear on what's expected of them. And then you want to document everything again in one tracking system. For example, like Google Docs or Asana. You want to make sure you have these notes to keep everybody on the same page. That way, nothing gets lost and everyone can have a live document to go back to understand what the next steps are. So just a few final takeaways. You want to remember, without vision, you can't track progress. This ultimately leads to confusion. A lack of direction causes burnout and exhaustion within our creative works. And no vision, it means losing valuable creative partners who don't want to work within a chaotic setting or within chaos. So to take the next step and then begin to implement, developing a vision to be able to take to your creative practice. Number one, define it. Where are you ultimately taking your creative practice, and what are you aiming to achieve? You want to define a mission. What is the creative practice now? Who does it serve? What is the problem you're solving? And what is the solution for that problem within your creative practice? Then you want to set clear goals and order them and prioritize them with specifics and timelines. Then you want to track the progress. You want to track it in a recurring designated time and make adjustments as needed. And then you want to keep collaborators aligned through clear communication, define end goals, and structure project planning. So I also have a document that I've created, a PDF that you can download directly on my YouTube channel, which helps you create a vision for your next creative project. It's called From Stuck to Finish. It's a roadmap to stop wasting time and finally complete your creative project. This guide will help you go from concept to completion with guidance and peace of mind. Go download that guide so you can obtain the assistance that you need to acquire the vision to complete your next creative project and get your creative practice in order. So I really want you to take this seriously. I really want you to take what I'm saying to heart. I do believe that a lack of vision creates the most frustration for all creatives, because the vision allows us to know where we're going. It gives us parameters to work within. It gives us something to be motivated for, and it gives us something to walk into. Without that, at some point, even within our creative practice, motivation will wane and frustration will settle in, because we will have no idea and no clue as to if what we're doing is working, is it impactful, and if it's effective, not just for me, but for the ones that I serve. So I really hope that this episode helped you. I really appreciate you watching. I appreciate you subscribing. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button. Please share this video with someone that you believe it can help. And I receive everything, all of the praise and adulation fully in the name of Jesus. Thank you. Thank you for watching. I'm Neak. Be blessed.